me Thanatos, Death, the Angel of Mercy, Hades, Erebus, Yama, the Grim Reaper, Azrael, Mo, Alik, Supe, Twani, Anubis, Michelante Kutli, and on. I have had countless names. Time is a human concept, a construct, a necessary universal product of the mind. For me, you must see, there is no such thing. I exist as I've always existed. Words, that sentence, or life used to describe the passing of their time is meaningless to me. My only purpose, for reasons beyond my comprehension, is to stand guardian at the shivers of time, the intersections when life ceases. I am an arbitrator, a judge of sorts. My will is reality. My edicts are law. I would claim myself to be a timeless god of some sort, but I have determined that I cannot be, for I am flawed. My judgment is imperfect. For my current existence, I have been assigned to overwatch a small blue planet full of ocean life and the occasional upright primate. The early days of this assignment were quite uneventful. I had seen more hunt and prey type activity than I care to admit. Return to the ground from whence you came and rejoin the spirit of your planet. I murmur quietly as the prey were being torn to pieces. It wasn't until midpoint in this planet's existence where I could say my soul, if I had one, became tested. I saw the creatures align themselves in rows and march blindly towards time fissures, creating a massive amount of work for me, where I would need to say the words of peace to each and every one of them. I wasn't sure of what they fought for. Their convictions were quite strong. One particular sight, there lay a youth, if I could call him so. He was young for his species. He was mangled by a bronze spear. He said to me in his tongue, "Thanatos, I do not resent you, for in my death I see now all things seem fair. Here whence comes my conviction of being imperfect, for there are moments when I have been made to feel, and in compassion I would commit a disallowed act and reverse the thread of their time fissure. For each creature that I allowed to continue living, I sometimes caused the end of many others. And I am punished through an increase in workload. I allowed the youth to live, and he commanded his legions to conquer the majority of his landmass, driven by immortality. I returned for him later when he was comfortable, and I spoke to him. I had mercy upon you, but you have betrayed my kindness. Vanity has consumed you, and now you must perish without cause in an equal measure." I felt that I had acted appropriately, and that would stem the tide of the unnecessary violence. that a precedent had been set upon the planet. Every leader of the pack wanted to emulate the history of the youth who's immortal. I grew quite tired of my labors as I now carried more way to death than I had ever seen exist upon the planet. And for each, their fear and their sadness grew upon me. I had spent so many countless nights in so many hopeless places. I often began to wonder if the entire purpose of the planet's existence was that of misery, if perhaps they were evil spirits eternally reincarnated and made only to inflict pain upon one another. As I would return to my fields, immersed in the bright warmth of the star which overlooked the planet, I'd speak with the many upon various topics as such. Specifically, those would call themselves philosophers. I found that I could not converse with them on depth upon the things that I had seen, for they would often become incoherent. The weight of my task seemed quite heavy upon their souls, and so as thus I could never find a satisfactory answer, and I had continued searching on my own. I could vaguely take a hiatus as I saw the brightest flame flash from the surface, and then another. Work, I thought. As I arrived upon the surface, I could exclaim that. If I had words or the physicality to express, I would have cried. I had felt compassion before, but it was the first time that I had felt fear and anger. The eyes of the creatures I saw were not peaceful as those of the gazelles which accepted their fate. They were full of questioning, full of sadness. Why, they would wordlessly ask. As I would give their parting words, I would sometimes pause, as I would be unable to give them an adequate answer. I did not know why. All I knew is that their area of the planet had been consumed in fire. The wounds to their souls were horrific, the worst I had ever seen. At this point, my own soul, I felt, was so heavy that I could no longer do my work properly. I laid down to rest in my solar fields, seemingly like king of a massive empire of the dead, and lapse into a deep depression. When I had emerged from my grief, I decided to be more compassionate in my policies and to allow more of the creatures to live. After such horrors that they had inflicted upon one another, perhaps they would be wiser in the future. But again, I was wrong. Staying my hand made them innumerate to the point of fatality. They overran the planet and consumed all of its resources. The atmosphere soon began to grow darker, and my workload increased dramatically once again. They were much wiser in their final moments. I would converse with them. They would ask more difficult questions, but they were also more full of regret. The creatures of the Legion were always strong in their convictions. These new creatures had spent their youths in the mist, were much more remorseful. We were wrong. We were so terribly wrong. I am so sorry, they would tell me, expecting compassion. I would tell them, I was wrong, not you. I am sorry. In the next movement of the legions, I had to hire help to get through so many. I thought that I had amassed an already tremendous number of souls in my field, but I don't think any kind of mathematics could enumerate the amount that I had to foresee at this time. My companions were not as strong enough of heart as I was, and would betray their assignments, and I was forced to retire them as well. Eventually, there were very few left. The last of us stood and we watched as the fires had scarred me in my mid-time return once again, covering the surface frozen. I quietly turned to my most trusted companion and confessed. I wished to feel, to cry, at least once. I want to see it through the eyes of all those whom I had myself carried. I want it to be spoken. My own words, last words, for I cannot bear the weight upon my soul any longer. I wish to die. They calmly nodded to me. I possessed a youth who most resembled the prior, and I stood in the flames and allowed them to consume me. I had never felt pain before. The body I had inhabited, all the impulses for it, all the knowledge and all the history of the creatures whom I had not understood until now flooded my soul. I cried. My tears melted in the flame. As I fell, my companion stood over me with the same eyes that I once given all those before me. I had my answer. What inhumanity has man committed upon humanity? I uttered. Had I been allowed to die, I would not be able to tell you this tale. No. You see, my watch never ends, for I am death, the destroyer of worlds.